Many Americans understand the basic gist of what frontiersman and professional hunter Daniel Boone's life is all about. Born in 1734 in Pennsylvania, Boone moved to Virginia and later North Carolina. He hunted and trapped in support of his family his whole life, fought Indians through the French and Indian War and the American Revolution, and in 1760 became one of the first white men to ever cross the Cumberland Gap and drop down into the Kentucky wilderness. Boone died in Missouri in 1820 and was later reburied back in Kentucky. History paints a basic picture of Boone's life, but the gritty details of what it meant to be a hunter in his time are best conveyed through one of the critters he was heavily involved with, the black bear. In the mid-1790s, Boone's black bear enterprise was based out of a lean-to camp on a fork of the Big Sandy River in Kentucky, where Boone and some family hunted bears with hound dogs. That country was so thick with bears back then that Boone once killed 11 before breakfast. There were a few different ways to make money off black bears. The hides were worth $2 a piece when fleshed, stretched, and dried. You could also trim off all the fat and render it into oil. A big massed fattened bear in the late fall might yield 10 or more gallons of oil, and Boone filled barrels with the stuff, selling it for $1 a gallon. There was money in cured bear meat as well. Boone rounded up his own brine ingredients. For salt, he'd go to salt licks, where mineral-heavy water bubbled up out of the ground, and he'd boil it down into dry salt. In the early spring, he'd tap maples, and then reduce the sap into syrup, and then down into sugar. He'd combine the salt and sugar with water in handmade wooden barrels, eventually smoking the brined meat in homemade smokers. Finally, Boone would transport the smoked meat on handmade keel boats back east to be sold as bear bacon. In one season, Boone handled 155 black bears in such a manner. Eventually, he'd have to leave his hunting grounds on the Big Sandy in order to move west to Missouri and eventually, reportedly, clear to the Rocky Mountains. The bears of Kentucky had been shot out.